Let's have a quick look at how the cloudification process works. So this cloudification designates a process of mapping a Picker API, which is a widely available API in cloud infrastructure. That's true for Google Drive, Microsoft OneDrive, Amazon S3, and a number of other services that live on top of this infrastructure, like Dropbox and Box.com. So the trick is to map in a safe way, map these file picker APIs onto an API that is relevant for a given application, in the process commoditizing the functionality that those APIs operate. Let's go to the diagram. So here we are, a number of users without access to specialized informatics infrastructure, and instead relying on widely available consumer-facing cloud infrastructure, which have this Picker API. Then the process we describe in this paper will map this API to an API specialized for the analysis being targeted, in this case analysis of large images. We'll be illustrating this process using a web app, which we call ImageBox, and then later in the webcast we'll show the same example using a specialized image analysis environment. We'll be using MATLAB. So as promised, we'll be first invoking an app. The project is hosted at GitHub, and using GitHub pages we can serve the content directly to you. So if you click on this link, you will go straight to the ImageBox web app. So if you use the URL with no other parameters, the tool will automatically pick some data from the Cancer Genome Atlas. So let's go there first to make sure we know where this data comes from. So this is glioblastoma multiforme. There we are. So these images are available online with variable sizes, usually in the hundreds of megabytes. And the tool just in a split second served us 1 million pixels from this large image. So the important link in this page is the one that is highlighted in yellow. So by clicking here, we go to the raw image served directly by the cloudifying service that this paper describes. So let's, for instance, change these values a little bit. Let's say we move the image just 100 pixels down. So these are the edges. So at this position, we'll draw a square of 1,000 by 1,000. And you see the image moved slightly. Again, if you go here, you'll now see the new image. So doing this for publicly available data is interesting because it allows us to do it very quickly rather than have to download the image and traverse it. But where things become really interesting and safe is when we use the file picker API. So now we move to the second type of usage. So this is now going to be composed by the tool. Let's, for instance, use Box.com. I have some slide image over here. So by choosing this, we now have the tool pull between cloud resources, the image, and when the large image is available in the cloudification service, we'll be able to extract slices very quickly. There it is, so it's done. The image was transferred around 10 megabytes per second, slightly lower at this time of the day. And then we're able to retrieve this slice here. So I'm going to do it again. I'm going to change the coordinates a little bit. Looks like we are in an empty zone. We could, of course, change the scale. For instance, we could go here and maybe try to see the whole image. There it is. So we're looking at this at different scales. Let's go back to the original scale. And now let's pull the image at a different coordinate. And then we'll look more carefully at where this image comes from. Okay, so it looks like we got a little slice in the middle of almost nothing with something to the upper left corner. So let's decrease this by 1,000 in each direction. and see the rest of the image. And there it is. So it doesn't need to be so big. Let's make it 500 by 500. And see, we are now retrieving it very quickly. Now the speed of retrieval is really just the speed of the connection between this machine and the cloud, or the cloudification service we describe in the paper. Now again, this is the important slice. The important link is here. Let's go there. And since we've demonstrated this for the web app, it's time to have a look at the safety of the process and then move to a specialized environment like MATLAB. So what the file picker API does is that it creates a temporary URI that can be dereferenced in the public domain, but includes a long string, a long alphanumeric string, which in effect works like an API key. This long alphanumeric string is only going to be available for dereferencing for a few minutes, and that's what guarantees the safety, its distribution in this model. At the end of this string, we are going to compose our API. So I'm going to go to the very end. There it is. So we could, for instance, go here and move another 1,000 pixels in each direction, up and left. Let's make it a little bigger. 1,000 by 1,000. So 1,000,000 pixels. There. Okay, now let's do this in MATLAB. Let's start by retrieving the image directly from the cloudified service. So image read, and now the full string. So this full string includes now both URLs, the URL of the cloudification service and URL and the composition of our image traversing API. So let's separate the two. Make it a little cleaner. I'm going to call it API URL. So if you now compose 2 bits, the second one being our API, that establishes the location, the dimensions of the section, and the scale. So we can now acquire the image, URL, IAM read, the composition of the 2 strings, our little API, let's make sure we are missing one character. There we are, and close. Misspelling. Yes, I did mean that. There we are. So now we can change the coordinates at will. For instance, I'm going to move the image 50 pixels in both directions. You see it moving. And we could, of course, extract the numerical data from the RGB slices. Let's pick something small so it fits the screen. Let's say a section of 6 by 6, and we should have 3 slices for the RGB coordinates. Could even call it X, Y, Z. And there are our 6 slices. So the point is that we now have an API that is served by this cloudification service described in the paper that allows us to do analysis of one section of the image at any scale and use the results of that analysis by invoking the API with different values for the parameters and decide what to do next. It could of course also be used to distribute a large-scale analysis over multiple client applications, potentially using completely different environments from web apps to computational statistics environments like MATLAB. And the final point being, very important, that all of this is done under the disguise of a long string that is automatically generated by the API of the consumer-facing cloud computing resource through an API file picker API. This is the string. So this string is dereferenceable only for a few minutes, and the same thing being true for our cloudification service. So essentially we have an API key embedded in the dereferencing of a cloudification service in order to serve an API that is relevant for a given application, in this case image analysis.